Wow, this is a big crowd. I'm Nicolas Gallego, but a lot of my friends just call me Nick. Growing up around my dad, I've gotten to do some pretty fun stuff. I got to be in some TV ads. I met a lot of cool people from all over Texas and the country. When my dad was in the Texas House, I'd go to work with him and hang out with the state reps on the House floor every day. I've gotten to meet speakers of the House, governors, a vice president. I loved Joe Biden. And even a president. One of my best nights was when we got to celebrate that my dad won his first race for Congress. Last election didn't go as well. A lot of TV commercials said mean things that weren't true about my dad. My dad is a great dad. He's taught me how important it is to help our neighbors and to work hard, to make sure everyone has a chance to do what they want in life. So here's the deal. My mom and I really want to celebrate on this election night. And I know you do too. And I really want to get a picture with President Hillary Clinton. But I can't do this by myself. Because I have school. But if all of us work together and make calls and knock on doors and spread the word, I know we can all make sure my dad wins again this year. And most importantly, we can all make sure that I get my picture with President Hillary Clinton. Thank you for the hard work you all do. And thanks for letting me speak tonight and introduce my dad. And now, please welcome my dad, Pete Gallego.
Texas Democrats, it's your Democratic nominee to take back Congressional District 23, Congressman Pete Gallego.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. It is so good to see so many Democrats from across the state, from east to west, from north to south, all of us working together to take back Texas. I want to say a special word to the young man who just introduced me, Nicolás Miguel Ramón Gallego. Gracias, rey de mi vida. Te quiero muchísimo. And you are so very lucky, Nicolás, that you look like your mom. You know, Nicolas has always loved a crowd. As a little kid years ago, he was probably 4 or so, at a Veterans Day ceremony in Del Rio. The friend that I was with, I'd asked him to hold on to Nicolas, but he didn't understand that when I said, hold on to Nicolas, that meant hold on to Nicolas. Because Nicolas rushed the stage that I was on, and when I had the microphone, he was pulling on the cord, and he said, "Quiero hablar, I want to talk." And you know, I'm sure everyone in the crowd could see this look of sheer panic on my face. And so finally I said, "Okay, well, what are you going to say?" And he says, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, then you can't talk." And he says, "No, I want to talk." So I surrendered, and he grabbed the microphone that day in Del Rio, and he said to everyone, he said, "Hello, I love Del Rio." And of course, in Del Rio, the people stood up and cheered, and everybody was happy, and he's been hooked on microphones ever since. I have to tell you, it's pretty amazing the feeling that I have watching that little boy. The day that he was born, it changed my life. It is so hard to believe that he was only 7 pounds and 7 ounces the first time I held him in my hands, a little over 17 inches long. I remember holding and playing with and kissing his little feet, and now his feet smell, and I wouldn't want them anywhere near my face. But watching him grow has been the single greatest pleasure and privilege of Maria Elena's in my life. So the Texas that Nicolas knows is a better Texas, a much better Texas, than the one that I grew up in, and the one that my parents and my grandparents knew. Alpine and Fort Stockton were segregated communities. There were separate schools for Anglo-Americans, Mexican-Americans. And in fact, in Alpine, a railroad track was literally the dividing line between 2 parts of town. The bus station at the Holland Hotel, just across the tracks on the Anglo side. I remember when my cousins were going off to Vietnam and we all took them to the bus station, I remember going there as a little boy and looking through the glass windows into the hotel and knowing that a view through the window was all I would ever get. My dad, like so many other proud Texans, served his country in World War II in an integrated unit. And afterwards, when he came back home to a still segregated town, he wanted to change that. He enrolled at Sul Ross State University in Alpine, Texas, where he was one of about 4 Latinos in his class. But there, he met my mom. She became the guidance in his life. She became his soul and his strength. And together, they ran our family restaurant, and they set about working hard to create a better future for their kids, a better Alpine, and a better Texas. On the local school board, my dad led the fight to integrate our schools, and it was rough, and the rhetoric was ugly and heated. And as a young kid, I loved to answer the phone. But then those phone calls became obscene phone calls and threatening phone calls. And I became afraid to answer the phone. But my parents weren't afraid. They hung in there because the fight was about their kids and their kids' futures. Now, there is no doubt over the years that we've made significant progress to protect the rights and to improve the lives and opportunities of all Texans. Nicolas now plays with kids of all backgrounds and is growing up differently, very differently, from how his parents and his grandparents and his great-grandparents grew up. But recently, I've remembered a lot about the past. I remembered when I got elected to the legislature in my 20s, I was the first Latino from rural far west Texas, and a constituent asked me if, because I was of Mexican heritage, if I would be more loyal to the government of Mexico than to the government of the US. And I remember being asked if I could represent Anglo-Americans or if I would just represent Mexican Americans. If you ask why all of these things came back to my mind, it's because there was a man named Donald Trump who said that a judge who was born in America, born in the US, but into humble roots, who worked hard, who went to law school, who became a successful lawyer, and who finally earned a spot on a federal bench. Mr. Trump said that that judge should be disqualified from hearing his case solely because of his heritage. His quote, "He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico," Mr. Trump said. You know, the federal government reports that in Texas alone, there are 16 federal judges of Latino heritage. Across Texas, at every level, there are 481 Texas judges of Latino heritage. But apparently, if these judges share the same heritage as that federal judge in California, no matter where they were born or how hard they worked or how smart they are, these judges aren't good enough to preside over a case where Mr. Trump is a party. And there are over 8,000 Latino lawyers in Texas who apparently, according to Mr. Trump, will never be qualified to be judges either. Somehow, Mr. Trump seems to think that all Americans are equal, but some are more equal than others. Or maybe some of us are less American than others. But I'm here to tell you, this isn't, don't make this mistake. This isn't about Mexicans or Latinos or Hispanics. It's much bigger than that. It's about every single one of us. It's about every one of us who's a parent, who teaches our kids that they can do it. Anglo, Asian, African American, Latino, Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Muslim, agnostic, or atheist. For all of us who tell our sons and our daughters that with hard work and perseverance, anything is possible in this country, regardless of where you come from, regardless of where your parents came from, or how humble your roots are. Mr. Trump just told us that our sons and our daughters will never be fully trusted because of who they are and what their heritage is. Mr. Trump apparently believes that they will never qualify or achieve the American dream. He's wrong. The Republican candidate for the highest office in the land, he's a bigot. And some Republicans, my opponent comes to mind, are afraid to call him out. I go back to being a parent because that now guides my entire life. Nicolas always gives me a toy to remind me of him wherever I am, to protect me, he says, and to wish me luck. Today, it's Snoopy. Being a parent, I've learned that teaching core values can be very hard because you teach best when you teach by example. You don't want your kid to learn that you should do the right thing unless it's too hard. You don't want to teach them, do the right thing unless you're out there all by yourself. It takes courage to do the right thing. And many of our elected leaders on the other side lack that courage. My best memories of the fight for integration in Alpine are of how parents banded together to fight for their kids. Their jobs and their livelihoods were threatened. Their businesses were threatened, but they were brave. They worked hard, they organized, they campaigned, and they voted. And that's what we must do now. No one, hear this, no one will steal my son's American dream. That dream that says if he works hard and perseveres and does his best, he will have the opportunity to succeed. I won't let them steal that dream. And you know what? I won't let them steal your kid's American dream either. Are you with me? Are you with me? I want each of you to with me, because that's what this is about. Protecting the future of our kids and our kids' kids. And I will tell you, there's a hard road ahead. But being a parent is hard. But the one thing I've learned is that our kids inspire us to be better than even we think we can be sometimes, because we want to show them the way. They watch everything we do and they learn from it, even the little things. You know, I'm almost embarrassed to say that years ago at a grocery store, for a long time, I didn't always put the shopping cart back, right? But then Nicolas came along, and all of a sudden, now, I take the shopping cart back, because that's what I want him to learn, right? If we give up, if we don't vote, they learn to give up, and they learn not to vote. If we lose track of what unites all of us as Americans, hard work, opportunity, the freedom to succeed, then they also will lose the most fundamental core values that make us all so damn proud to live in this country. I have news. America is already great. And you know what else? You know what else? Our children will make this country that we love even greater. That's the real promise of both Texas and America. A better Texas, a better America. Together, we ensure that the United States never turns its back on that wonderful, incredible promise. I leave you with one final thought, and I've heard it here today. If there's one phrase in Spanish that every kid across Texas should learn, one phrase in Spanish, 3 words: Sí se puede. Thank you all so much. Muchas gracias a todos, and onward to November.